Okay folks, there is crazy news about the Yellowstone supervolcano. Deep below the idyllic Yellowstone National Park, something is brewing that is far less peaceful than the picturesque landscapes above. Volcanologists have now detected magmatic movements.
We'll take a closer look at what this means for a potential outbreak in this video. Make sure to stick around until the end, because these new research findings could fundamentally change our view of the sleeping giant. Welcome everyone.
When you hear the name Yellowstone, you think of spectacular geysers, colorful thermal pools, and maybe grizzly bears roaming pristine wilderness. Beneath this natural idyll lies one of the most massive volcanic structures on Earth, a titan whose eruptions in the past reshaped landscapes and spread ash across the continent.
And sometimes he gives a hint of his power. For example, this happened last year in July. A sudden and intense hydrothermal geyser explosion in the Bispuit Basin had terrified the tourists. Thank God no one was injured. Let me know in the comments what you were thinking at that moment and how you would have reacted. I'm really curious to hear. Yes, if you want to stay updated on such fascinating natural phenomena, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel.
Subscribing costs nothing, you will never miss a new video again, and you will help me immensely. Thanks a lot, guys! The Yellowstone supervolcano is one of the largest and most active volcanic systems on Earth. It is located in Yellowstone National Park in the northwest of the United States and is infamous for its gigantic eruptions in the past. Another major eruption would have devastating consequences. It could bury entire swathes of land in the western United States under a meter-high layer of ash and trigger global climate change. Here you can see a map on which researchers have marked the so-called death zone and the ash area of a worst-case eruption.
It definitely makes you feel a bit uneasy. Such an eruption would have dramatic effects on the weather worldwide. A worst-case scenario is, of course, extremely rare. And that's exactly why researchers are studying the magma system so intensively, to better understand possible early warning signs.
In the course of this, a team of researchers from the US Geological Survey has made a discovery that fundamentally changes our understanding of the Yellowstone volcano and also sheds a whole new light on the probability of an eruption. Under the direction of seismologist Ninfa Bennington, the scientists conducted a comprehensive magnetotelluric investigation of the Yellowstone caldera. It sounds complicated at first, but it's actually a pretty clever process because it measures variations in the Earth's magnetic and electric fields to see what's under the Earth's surface. This method is particularly good at detecting molten rock, or magma.
And what the researchers discovered is truly significant. The magma chambers that supply energy to the supervolcano seem to be shifting towards the northeast of the caldera.
Based on the volume of rhyolitic melt beneath the northeastern part of the Yellowstone caldera and the direct connection of this region to a heat source in the lower crust, we suspect that the center of future rhyolitic volcanic activity has shifted to the northeastern part of the Yellowstone caldera, the scientists write in their study.
But what does that actually mean, and how dangerous is it now? To understand that, we need to dive a little into volcanology. Yellowstone is not just a big volcano, it's a supervolcano, one of the largest volcanic structures on the planet.
Over the past 2.1 million years, it has experienced 3 massive caldera-forming eruptions. These massive eruptions have left huge craters as the magma chambers emptied and the overlying Earth's crust collapsed. Between these mega events, there were also repeated smaller eruptions, the last notable of which occurred about 70,000 years ago.
So one might think that it's about time again. Researchers have now found that there are at least 7 different regions with high magma content beneath the Yellowstone caldera.
Some of these feed others and lie at depths between 4 and 47 kilometers below the surface, down to the boundary between the Earth's crust and mantle. It is particularly interesting that the largest amounts of magma were found in the northeast of the caldera. Here, huge reservoirs of basaltic magma appear to lie in the lower crust, heating and maintaining chambers of rhyolitic magma in the upper crust.
But wait a minute, basaltic and rhyolitic magma, what's the difference? They are basically the 2 main characters in our underground volcanic drama.
Basaltic magma contains little silicon but a lot of iron and magnesium. It is relatively thin and can therefore rise easily. Rhyolitic magma, on the other hand, is rich in silicon and is chemically similar to granite. A plutonic rock, it is viscous, thick, and slow-moving.
And this is where it gets dangerous, because this sticky consistency makes it harder for gases to escape. Imagine you're cooking a thick pea soup or something, and the bubbles can barely reach the surface. It's the same with rhyolitic magma. And when the pressure becomes too great, an explosive eruption is the result. But in that case, it's not just soup splatters in the kitchen, but a bit more intense. An interesting aspect of the study is also the relationship between the different types of magma.
The researchers suspect that the rhyolitic magma chambers must cool completely before basaltic magma can enter. This means that we are observing a complex interplay between different processes that take place over long periods of time. The caldera forming eruptions at Yellowstone were caused by just such rhyolitic magma chambers, and now the researchers have discovered a rhyolitic magma reservoir in the northeast of the caldera with an estimated volume of between 388 and 489 cubic kilometers.
In comparison, that's almost 10 times more than in the regions to the south, west, and north, where previous eruptions occurred. So if there were to be an eruption in this region in the northeast of the caldera, it would be really unpleasant. Because according to the scientists at the US Geological Survey, this amount of magma is roughly equivalent to the amount that was ejected during the massive Mesa Falls eruption 1.3 million years ago.
This eruption was so powerful that it devastated a gigantic area and spread ash over large parts of North America. It released around 280 cubic kilometers of ash and rock. So in theory, we are talking about an apocalyptic event here.
So should we start hoarding toilet paper after all? There's no reason for acute panic, because researchers have also found that the magma is stored in separate areas with low melting fractions.
This means that the reservoirs are probably not currently eruptive. Most of these individual reservoirs contain magma volumes that are more likely to correspond to smaller eruptions after caldera formation. Nevertheless, the shift of the volcanic center to the northeast of the caldera is an absolutely significant development because it shows us that even a seemingly stable system like the Yellowstone supervolcano is dynamic and changes over time. And while an eruption like the Mesa Falls eruption is not to be expected in the short term, overall, of course, it is not a question of whether, but only of when we will see a violent explosion of Yellowstone. And this new research just helps us to better understand where such future volcanic activity is most likely to occur. And the discovery not only gives us insights into Yellowstone itself, but also into volcanic systems worldwide, because the behavior of the magma currents can also be applied to other volcanoes.
So these findings could even help predict eruptions in other places better, potentially saving lives. The research, of course, continues. Scientists will continue to closely monitor Yellowstone to register any changes and deepen our understanding of this giant beneath the American landscape. And with each new insight, we get closer to the answer to the big question, when will the sleeping giant awaken again? I will, of course, keep you updated on all new developments. So, if you haven't done it yet, feel free to hit the subscribe button and activate the bell, so you won't miss any more videos in the future.
And now we switch from volcanic to radioactive lava. Chernobyl is home to one of the most dangerous objects on the planet, known as the elephant's foot. This nightmare-like deposit can kill you just by standing next to it for a long enough period of time.
And there is incredible original footage of the elephant's foot in the video shown in the top right. Make sure to check it out because this story will really blow you away.
And as always, if you click on the bottom right, you will be taken to another exciting video on the topics of science and space. Otherwise, I would say see you in the next video. Take care, folks.